Right. Need to remember how to do previews. How do you do them again?
Wait, what race is it?
We also need to do a review of testing. But we've already done it. 102 days since the last time F1 hit the track. But guys, we've waited, we've wanted, and here we actually are. The weekend. This weekend, guys, it's back. Get in there. I am so excited. I know we've blabbered on at the start of most videos about how close it is towards the season, but here we are. Here we go for another season of Formula 1. The 71st, to be precise, and of course F1 is celebrating a very big landmark, 70 years in Formula 1. And here we go once again to do it all again for 21 rounds, hopefully. And then, of course, the season will conclude in Abu Dhabi. Who will be world champion? Can Hamilton match Michael Schumacher? Or can we see another champion coming through the ranks? Can Vettel get another title? Or maybe Charles, Max, Bottas? Very interesting. But, of course, I can't wait to get the season going. But, like as always, let's start and let's kick off this season preview with some stats. Now, of course, these stats are kindly provided by the F1 Statman. Stats. Twitter, of course, you can find in the description below. And, of course, as well, before I start, what do you think of the new graphics of the previews? Just let me know in the comment section below what you think about them. Just something different compared to last year, because it was a bit bland last year, I believe. Anyways, so stat-wise, again, like I said, Twitter below for the F1 Statman. The Albert Park track is 5.303 kilometers long. It'll be a 58 race lap on Sunday. Nice and juicy, isn't it? 307.574 kilometre race. That's how long, of course, the cars would have travelled over a race distance. 9 wins from pole position at the Australian Grand Prix. That is a 37.5 ratio win percentage. And 15 wins came from the front row out of all the Australian Grand Prix. Of course, 62.5% of those. So, and of course, there'll be more stats below, as you'll be able to see, like I said, provided by F1 Statman. So, one of the new features that we're going to be adding into the previews is a bit of like a recap as to what's been going down in the previous Grand Prix. But of course, this is the first Grand Prix, so you're probably thinking, Jordan, what are you going to go off? Are you going to go off Abu Dhabi? No, that was far too long. So before I start, obviously we'll kind of like a bit of a recap as to what happened over at testing. So of course, testing this year took place at the Circuit de Catalunya. 6 days, of course, the cars had to do as much laps as they possibly could. In terms of the times, let's have a look at the times first. Valtteri Bottas set the fastest time overall in testing of a 1 minute 15.732 in a testing that was dominated by one thing: DAS. The hype of DAS has kind of died down a bit, but I wonder how long it will be before it's revamped again at the Australian Grand Prix. Then again, I think there'll be another kind of headlining over the Australian Grand Prix regarding engines, but let's not get into that. Verstappen came in second with 1 minute 16.269. Third place, Daniel Ricciardo with 116.276, and in fourth place, Charles Leclerc on a 116.360. And Hamilton was fifth fastest in testing. But is the championship over already, guys? No, just chill. Just let's not read anything into testing just yet in terms of times. But let's have a look in terms of laps. So the overall total lap time from driver-wise, Lewis Hamilton did the most laps out of everybody. He did 466 laps overall in testing. Carlos Sainz 446, Charles Leclerc 442, Sergio Perez 441, and Valtteri Bottas 437. In terms of teams, Mercedes did the overall. The Mercedes team did the most laps overall between two drivers. They nearly hit over 1,000 laps. That's incredible. They nearly hit that 1,000 barrier. Well, they did 903 laps overall. Ferrari did 844. McLaren 802. Racing Point, Force India, whatever you want to call them, 782. Red Bull 780. AlphaTauri 769. Renault in 7th place was 743. Williams, very, very impressive show from Williams, 737 laps. Alfa Romeo, Orlen, or whatever, if you want to add the Orlen on, you can if you want, I suppose. 735, and Haas only did 649. How much is that going to be hindering them coming into the season? And randomly of all, if you want to know how many laps the engine suppliers did, 3 from Mercedes, 3 from Ferrari, 2 from Honda, and 2 from Renault. Merc did 2,422 laps, Ferrari did 2,228 laps, Honda did 1,549 laps, and Renault came last, did 1,545. And of course, I got those stats from motorsport.com. Again, I'll leave a link to that article in the description below. So yeah, just a little bit of recap of what happened in testing. Like I said, don't read too much into the laps as such. Like the lap times of such, but have a look at how much running as teams do. So of course, teams like McLaren and Mercedes and stuff who did the most laps, of course they'll be better prepared for teams like Haas and Williams and stuff like that, who of course did a lot better than what they did last year. But of course, those that didn't do the running, of course, there was a lot of crashes as well. So let's see how that pans out for them. But next up, one of the big things that we do is the predictions. I'm going to quickly hand over to Lyle to give his predictions for his top 3 of the Australian Grand Prix.
Australia, yes, we're finally at round 1. Firstly, before I kick off, if you are watching this and you want to kind of see how I look on a morning, I'm doing the review, so you'll be able to see a nice kind of early morning Lyle, of course, an early morning race for us here in the UK and in Europe. But it should be a very juicy one, of course, round 1. I always think it's a sunset kind of race. It's not a sunset race over there, but it is, a sunrise for us. It's not a sunrise for them, it's kind of more sunsetty. But kind of on the season, of course, Abu Dhabi is the fall. Anyways, what is going to happen in this race, in the 2020 Australian Grand Prix, and kind of the benchmark for the rest of the season? Well, I'm going to kick it off and sit in 3rd place. I'm kind of going to go in a little bit of a different road. Of course, we have our prediction league. We'll get onto that in a little bit. But I'm going to kind of go and take a little bit more of a risk than some of you guys, possibly. And I'm going to say in 3rd place is going to be the Renault driver, the home driver of Daniel Ricciardo. Now, we're probably going to talk about him a little bit more in the episodes. Of course, stay tuned for that. In my opinion, one of the unluckiest moments of the entire season, not just for Danny Ric, but for everyone, happened 2 seconds into the season. Of course, on race, he went over on the far right, catching a bit of the grass, and of course, I think it was a manhole cover, clipped that and lost the front wing. I mean, that was massive. That wasn't a car failure, it wasn't a car problem, it wasn't a driver problem, it wasn't anything. And that happened. It was absolutely horrible. You heard the massive groan from the crowd when they saw that. Of course, home driver, he'd moved to Renault, finally kind of shed the wings. I think it was Danny Ric needs no wings. That was kind of the hashtag thing that was going around Australia at that time. He'd shed Red Bull, he'd gone to Renault, and the unluckiest thing had happened to him. He did an interview last week on Formula One. Obviously, he's done a lot. I would say he's probably one of the hottest drivers over the winter break. I don't just mean his appearance. I mean, in terms of how juicy his career is right now. It's a very important season right now. He did an interview on Formula One Official last week, just saying that Smile is not fake. And I haven't been giving Danny Ric a hard time, but I've been saying over testing that it possibly is kind of when that smile starts to turn into a frown, that's when we get worried. And he's not as bubbly as he is, because this year is so important for him. He demands podiums from that Renault car. And in my opinion now, is if he can get a 3rd place in his home race, that would be absolutely incredible and set off an incredible season. Going back to 2014, of course, with Red Bull, he got a podium. It wasn't allowed, but it was a very deserved podium, and that kicked off an incredible 2014 season with him, of course, first season with Red Bull Racing. So we'll see what happens in this race. So yes, 3rd place for Danny Ric. In 2nd place, I'm going to be going for the German Ferrari driver of Sebastian Vettel. Not much to say on him. In terms of winter testing, of course, we've already kind of gone into that a little bit. Ferrari, just not really on the cusp. There's been a little bit of sandbagging talk, a little bit, I guess. Kind of what are they doing? Are they going kind of like what Mercedes did in 2019 winter testing? Are they going to show that? Are they bluffing? Are they going to get Australia and absolutely dominate the season? What's going to happen? Of course, obviously 2019, if you can't remember that far back, Mercedes were looking on the back foot in winter testing, and of course that was absolutely 100% full of what the F1 debate show is, because when they turned to Australia, they were hammer and tongue fast, and Ferrari weren't. I wouldn't say it was so much Ferrari their fault, but but it was mainly Mercedes. But of course, Ferrari did show that they were a dominant force in winter testing. I would say kind of took the foot off the gas a little bit because Mercedes was so bad in testing, and it showed. Now it's Ferrari that have been on the back foot. I don't think they're doing a bluff. I don't think they're doing a sandbagging, but I just think that they're going to be strong. And of course, Sebastian Vettel has had strong races this year. I think it was 2017. He jumped the two Mercedes at the start, and we thought, very much like we did in 2016 as well, almost identical. It's like, this is going to be a Ferrari year. Ferrari are back. And yeah, I think that should be a good one from him. So, of course, second place for the Sebastian Vettel Ferrari. I think I said the Sebastian Vettel, like the Sebastian Vettel. Okay, so go on, the Sebastian Vettel. In first place, or the first place, I'm going to go for a bit of a strange one. Mr. Consistent himself, the one, of course, a lot of people are backing to be 2020 world champion, and that, of course, is the Dutch driver, Red Bull driver of Max Verstappen. I'm a little bit confused about Max. I don't know what to expect. I didn't know what to expect in winter testing. I still sit here and I'm not sure what he's about. Is he a 2020 contender? Where is he going? So, I'd like him to kind of prove everyone right and wrong and get everyone on the same page, including me, by doing something incredible in the Australian Grand Prix. And of course, if that is getting a podium, that will be good, getting points. And of course, I think if he wins it, that will for sure cement him as a 2020 contender. Somebody who is going to be there and going, right, you know what, everyone who's looking at Lewis, so going for 7 this year, looking at Charles Leclerc, of course looking at Sebastian Vettel, who still is a contender to Lewis, going, no, it's Max Verstappen, I'm here, it's my time. And of course, I'm still very young, 22, but yeah, it's my time to go. So I think that if Max can do something incredible, like win this race, that will cement him as, like, this could be a good year for Max if he does that. If he doesn't do that, it can still be a good year for Max, of course. But if he does win, that will prove in everyone's mind, including me, that he is here to win the World Championship. Something that I'm still a bit confused about Max. Because every year has been a progression, of course. Mr. Consistent, Mr. Angry, Mr. Mature, but also he has a lot to learn. You can't be both in Formula 1. It's either fast and furious or kind of laid back and mature and consistent. So I want to see which side of Max we're going to see this year, because I haven't seen that of yet. So yes, anyway, that's my predictions, of course. Daniel Ricciardo in third place, Sebastian Vettel in second place, and Max Verstappen in first place. The guys I haven't said, Mercedes, I'm going to throw them in, of course, in terms of our prediction league. We're adding this feature this year, of course, which is fastest lap. So the guy who gets the fastest lap in the race after the final lap will, of course, get you the point if you're in the prediction league. So I'm going to say just Lewis Hamilton for that. Because a lot of people are probably thinking, Lyle, why haven't you said Lewis Hamilton? Why haven't you said the reigning champion? You stupid man. But of course, as I say at the start, guys, for me, I'm not really thinking about the prediction league. I'm thinking of what I'd like to see. What I would love, what will probably happen is probably completely different to that. But that's what I'd like to see. Anyways, Jordan, that is my top 3 for the 2020 Australian Grand Prix. It's great to have Formula 1 back, and I would say there's some spicy predictions. So what is your predictions for the Australian Grand Prix?
Some very bold predictions there. I think he ended the season as he did give some very bold predictions, and he's starting it in exactly the same way. Renault on the podium. Ooh, now that would be incredible. Not only for Renault, but for Daniel Ricciardo to be on the podium at his home Grand Prix officially for the first time. I mean, he was there in 2014, but then of course he got disqualified. So yeah. Come on, I would love that to happen, but do I think it will happen? A lot of things will have to pan out for that to happen, and I think it would be a cracking Grand Prix, to say the least. So before I give my predictions, I just want to tell you about the prediction league that we've got going on, carrying over from last season. We started this at like Belgium, at the halfway point of last season, had a bit of a trial run. It proved a big success, and we're going to be continuing it in 2020. Now, we did a video on Monday explaining the rules and everything like that. But of course, if you haven't seen that and you want to kind of me explain it again, well, actually, I'm going to put it in the description below, and you can kind of just read through the rules and everything like that, how to enter, the point system, and how it all works. It's a pretty fun kind of thing. Of course, if you are new to this, and if you aren't new and you want to play like you did last year, then of course you know what to do. But of course there is one brand new feature, which if you haven't seen the video, you might have heard Lyle say it already. But my top 3 for the Australian Grand Prix. Now I'm gonna go with third place. a relatively boring answer for this one, but I'm going to go with Valtteri Bottas. Now, I predicted Bottas to finish third in a lot of Grand Prix last year. Now, of course, he is the race winner of last year's Grand Prix, which was incredible. You know, how's that? To whom may concern? Yes, we've been here before. It was a very, yes, Bottas has arrived kind of statement coming into the 2020 season. 2019 season at the time. And it was a solid, statement from Bottas. I don't think he'll have that big of an impact this season. I think he'll have a solid race, but again, Australia is always a tricky one to predict. I mean, God help us for next year. That's going to be even harder. Australia, because you've only really got testing to go off. But I don't want to read too much into testing, so I'm just going to kind of think that he'll have a good race, but maybe not a good of a race as what everyone might think. I think a lot of people might be saying he might win again, which again I hope he does. But I really don't know, because I think that my next two drivers will just do a better job. So in second place, I'm going to go with Lewis Hamilton. Now, for these next two, it was like head or tails really for who I put second or first, because I mean Hamilton hasn't won the Australian Grand Prix since 2015, and a little kind of stat off the top of your head, the past three winners of the Australian Grand Prix haven't gone on to become world champion at the end of the season. Of course, Vettel 17 and 18, Bottas last year. So maybe the race winner might become champion, but might not. Let's see how that goes. So second place, I'll go for Lewis Hamilton. Now, normally, you might be a bit like, hang on a minute, Jordan. You're British. You're very biased with Lewis Hamilton, and you put him in second place. Are you kind of, letting them who people think that you're biased win? No. I just think Hamilton will become second because he hasn't won here for a couple of years. In qualifying, I think he'll get pole position, absolutely, because Hamilton's got pole position since 2014 in every single year. He dominates qualifying, as he always does. But in the race, he just kind of, something always happens to him. And last year he had a bit of a floor damage, let's say. But I think for me, Bottas was a better driver on the day, regardless of that floor damage or not. And I think he'll have a really good race. I'm hoping he'll have a good battle with the driver who I'm thinking will finish in first place. Like I said, it could go either way, and if I'm wrong with this, then fair dues. Like I said, Hamilton will be gunning for that 7th World Championship. He's got some big records to break in 2020. He will be trying to go for them records. Let's see if he can achieve, at least try and kick off to achieve that. But I think he'll finish in second place from his recent form in Australia. So who do I think will win the 2020 Australian Grand Prix? I'm actually going to agree with Lyle for a change, and I'm going to say Max Verstappen. Now, I was going to say for him to finish in P2, but I'm going to go bold with this one. And I'm saying this is going to be like a slight bold prediction with Max Verstappen. Now, he finished third here last year, which was a solid job from him. That Red Bull looks very, very good. Every team are sandbagging, but I think Red Bull are sandbagging quite a lot more than what people think. They've got a really good suspension going on that a lot of people aren't really talking about. They've got an improved engine from Honda, and of course Max Verstappen coming into his 6th season in Formula 1, I think, only at the age of 22, which is very impressive. I think you need to have a really good start if you want to carry on like a momentous title challenge. And I think if he hits the ground running straight away, which I think he can do, then I think this could be a very interesting battle from the Red Bull and of course from the Dutchman. And I think it'll be very interesting to see if Verstappen does win this Grand Prix. Like I said, I am a fan of Verstappen. I like to praise him, whenever deems necessary. And I think Australia will be a good ground to kind of show that, okay, this Red Bull car is of course good. Verstappen is ready to kind of show what he's worth to those title challenge around it, to his title challenges. Take the fight to Mercedes, and I think it'll be really, really good. But like I said, I think it is bold. I think Hamilton will be favourite. But like I said, we say this every single year. Hamilton is favourite to win the Grand Prix, and he doesn't. He hasn't won it, like I said, since 2015. So maybe it might not go into Hamilton's favour. In qualifying it will, but maybe not in the race. So I'm going to throw it out there, and I'm going to say Max Verstappen. And my fastest lap, who do I think will get fastest lap? I'm going to say, now fastest lap is always that's a tricky one. I'm going to go I'm going to say Bottas for this one in P3. I think he might be a bit off the pace, perhaps, but maybe a bit too far, too far in front of, let's say, the two Ferraris in this case. Go in the pits with about 5 laps to go, let's say, on the brand new set of soft tyres, get out there and get the fastest lap for the extra point for the Mercedes team. Maybe in my predictions, Max has had a better race. He's way ahead of Hamilton. They need to kind of claw back as much points as they possibly can. They know Max isn't going to pit. Get Bottas in, the number 2 driver. Get him in on an extra set of softs. Get him out there. Get that team the extra point. The team player that he is. So yeah, I'm gonna say Valtteri Bottas for my fastest lap. So now let's move on to the ones to watch. Now this is like the part of the preview where we'll talk about maybe drivers or teams or something totally irrelevant, which normally happens on the F1 debate show. Like ones to keep an eye out for over the course of the weekend. Now I think it's only fitting that we start the ones to watch with the new-ish drivers that will be coming into the Formula 1 grid for 2020. Now of course, if you are like casually new to Formula 1 and you're like, okay, who's changed? I've seen a couple of people last year who were in 2019, but they're not here in 2020. Well, Robert Kubica was in the Williams for 2019. He's been replaced by Nicholas Latifi. And over at Renault, Nico Hülkenberg, he was in the Renault car. He's been replaced by Frenchman and former Mercedes test driver and former Racing Point, Renault, Force India, Spike, or whatever you want to call him, driver, Esteban Ocon. That's caused a bit of a stir on social media over the past few weeks. Anyways, those are the two. Well, one's new and the other one is kind of not new, but new to Renault. But yeah, you get my gist anyway. So I'll be talking about those two drivers. You've got to keep an eye out on them two. I'll start with Esteban Ocon. Now, Ocon is coming into his 3.5 season in Formula 1. I mean, he had a half year in 2016. And he had a fairly alright time over at Force India Racing Point. Had a good battles with Sergio Perez. Perez always came out on top, of course. And Ocon there was a lot of hype around him when he first came to Formula 1. And the hype is kind of reigniting with Ocon. But a lot of people, and us included, are saying that this is a very pivotal year for Ocon. This is a place where he needs to show his worth, because he knows in the back of his mind that there's a seat at where, what's it called? Mercedes. I was going to say Williams and Racing Point. I was going to say loads of teams at once then. He knows that there's a seat at Mercedes, possibly up for grabs for 2021. So, and of course, he's got that links to Mercedes, like he was a test driver. He's managed by Toto Wolff, the team principal of Mercedes Formula 1 team. So there is a slight chance that he could potentially fill in that seat for like either Hamilton or Bottas should one of them leave. So he has to perform very, very well. Going alongside a driver like Daniel Ricciardo is no easy task. Daniel Ricciardo is, in my opinion, one of the best drivers on the grid, undoubtedly. Should he be in a Renault? That's for a different video. I won't go into that detail. But certainly for Esteban Ocon, he's got a really good teammate to go up against him. For me, there's no hiding places now. There's nowhere to hide for Ocon. He has to set the ground running like there and then. Pretty much get the season off to a good start if the car lets him, of course. I mean, anything could happen with the car. And take the fight to Daniel Ricciardo. And if he doesn't perform throughout the course of the season, then I think a lot of people might be like, Ocon isn't the driver that we all kind of said or thought he was going to be. But let's say he does beat Ricciardo, I think he'll gain a lot more respect from F1 fans. Not everyone, because they'll go, well, that was a one-off. Daniel Ricciardo had this problem. Daniel Ricciardo had that problem. But certainly I think a lot of people will go, you know what? He did a pretty good job in 2020. Then maybe push him on for 2021. I really don't know about that one. I think for me, Russell is slightly ahead of Ocon, but Ocon has got that kind of advantage card. I don't know the proper term for it, but that kind of Joker card or the advantage card. I don't know what you call it. He's got that kind of slide-in, easy the free pass, you could say, into Mercedes because he's managed by Toto Wolff. But if Wolff believes he's not ready for Mercedes, then he won't take him in for 2021. But let's see how it goes anyway. So Ocon is a one to watch for Australia. How's he going to do in qualifying? How is he going to do in the race against a very popular man in Daniel Ricciardo? So on the very back of the grid, let's say, we'll go over to Williams, who of course will be bringing in Nicholas Latifi. Now Latifi has had a number of years in the lower ranks. He's waited a long time. A bit like Giovinazzi. He's waited a long time for his opportunity to come into Formula One, and this is it. He's not a driver that I'm very excited for, if I'm totally honest. He's actually the second driver on the grid to actually have. I'll start again. He's the second driver on the grid who has never won a lower single-seater category title. The other driver being Max Verstappen. Shock horror, I know, right? I think I've said that stat about 6-7 times now, anyways. But you never know. You might have heard it for the first time here today. And Latifi, if you look at Latifi's record in lower category, it's nothing to be impressed by, if I'm totally honest. His best result in a single-seater car was last year in F2 when he finished in second place. And that's nothing really to shout about because the grid last year was fairly average, you could say. Nothing compared to what it was in 2018 or nothing compared to what it's going to be in 2020. But still, though, second place, it's pretty good. He won some races. That's all right. He has got a lot of money behind him. Again, Canadian with money. Where have you heard that one before? Sounds familiar. But I think he'll bring something different to the team. I think for me, Latifi is more on Russell's level. Now, bear with me on this. For me, Russell was always going to be better than Kubica. Now, Kubica, of course, he had that disadvantage with his right arm. He'd been away from competitive Formula 1 for a long time, and he was going to be a bit rusty. So I had a feeling that Russell would kind of. I didn't think he would dominate him that much, but I knew he had a good chance of beating him. All right, the standards didn't show that, but that's totally different. In qualifying in the races, Russell was more or less ahead. So I think Latifi will kind of bring a bit of a level playing field. And I think Russell is a lot better than Latifi, but certainly the pendulum is going to be, or the challenge is going to be a bit more. Russell will have to up his game just a little bit because you never know. Latifi might throw in a bit of a surprise, but let's see how not only Latifi does, but Williams do in 2020, and of course at the Australian Grand Prix. They were about 4 or 5 seconds off the pace last year. Looking good in testing, bit more reliable, much more laps. I think in testing, I think they did more laps on day one than they did throughout the entire of the testing in 2019, and there's 2 less days this year, so that just proves how bad they were. But let's see how they do, anyways. So that's my ones to watch. Let's now hand over to Lyle for his ones to watch for this weekend.
Well, for me, there's only one driver to watch. One where obviously frequently, he's massive hype around here. Of course, he is from Australia. He's Australian. He's still good looking. The McLaren rear wing still makes him very husky. And even though he's not in Formula 1 anymore, when he goes to Paul Ricard, he will still shout from the parade bus, Nico Hülkenberg! And of course that is Daniel Ricciardo, the second man. Of course, we mentioned Esteban Ocon, the second man at Renault. Daniel Ricciardo, should he have left Red Bull? It's for another episode, of course, as we just said. It is tight, it is tense, but of course he left Red Bull to go to Renault to get podiums, for a fresh start. And now, in terms of his own, where he is in his mind, he wanted to leave Red Bull. Of course, no one can ever say that was the wrong decision because that's what he wanted to do. But in terms of what he wants to achieve, which is podiums and get Renault back to the top step, is tense, to say the least. Of course, I say that he is in third place for this weekend. That would mean the world to him. I think it would obviously, of course, set him off for a good season, which is what he wants. 2019, he was under the impression that he went to Renault. Obviously, Renault spent a lot of money to get him there. He was one of the highest paid drivers. I think it was Alain Prost. Very much how Niki Lauda got Lewis to Mercedes. You had an ex-world champion, Alain Prost, who got Daniel Ricciardo into the team. So he went to the team with, obviously, Nico Hülkenberg as a teammate. And he was under the impression that, okay, I'll sit back for this year. I'll hopefully have a good... Obviously, I'll push the car to, its limits. But I'll sit back and I'll accept the fact that I might not get podiums and I might not get good results. So, of course, Abu Dhabi rolls by and he's like, oh, fair enough. Still the smile, still there. Happy-go-lucky. Obviously, you can see Netflix, things like that. He's still here to entertain. This year, though, and I know it's only been waiting to test him, but to me, he seemed a little bit more on edge. He's more mature now, and there's less joking on. I think that he wants to do. He was asked about the shoey, and of course he said he wants to do the shoey again because he wants to get the podium, and of course that will still be here. but I feel like he needs to get one podium, at least one podium first before the shoey start and all of the joking on comes. And we get to Paul Ricard and he hasn't had a podium. Well, that might not happen. He might not shout what I've just said there. But we'll have to see what happens. Last year, of course, as I've just said there, at the start, I'm not going to repeat myself. One of the unluckiest moments in Formula 1, of course, 2 seconds into the race, loses his entire front ring. Absolutely mad. I think he retires from that race as well, in front of his home crowd, in front of everyone who's come out in the yellow. And obviously, I remember there was a sign there that said Daniel Ricciardo needs no wings, because it was like, we've shared Red Bull. And obviously in Australia, they were adamant that he didn't need Red Bull to win the World Championship. It was Renault, and of course, Danny Ric, great driver in himself. He can do a Lewis Hamilton. He can do his own thing. He can, as I say, get the good result himself. But that's what he needs. He needs podiums, and he needs good results. Of course, hopefully he doesn't lose front ring this year. Hopefully he has a good race, because this is the first time we're going to see Danny Ric, really pushing that Renault in front of his home crowd. And obviously what we've seen in testing, it was promising for Renault. Again, you can't read too much into it. They haven't officially released the livery as of time of recording, but of course they probably are going to revert back to the yellow. Obviously new car, new design. I love the front wing. I've said it looks a little bit like an Indy car, so really kind of a standout independent car for me. Doesn't really show much in terms of how that Renault car will perform, but I would say it is strong. And of course, losing Red Bull last year gave them more of a chance to kind of put more into the car. Good lineup as well. Ocon as well as his teammate. New, fresh. It feels like a fresher team. And I feel like it's better than last year to get Danny Ric the good results, but he does need that. And it is going to be hard to say. He has got the speed. He has got he is fast. I do agree with Jordan. He is one of the best drivers in Formula 1. And yeah, I think that he could do it in a car that will be good for him. Also as well, I do agree, I think Ocon as well, he is a good driver, and he will get the result in that car. He's not going to be a driver who, he needs everything to win. He needs just the car, and then he will be able to go and get good results. So he does need that. Put in the home crowd, and he should do well this year, this race, sorry. If he doesn't finish on the podium, so for example what Jordan said, and of course what a lot of people out there are probably saying, he won't finish on the podium, should be a good result from him. I'm hoping that it's strong, it's progressive, it's wherever he finishes needs to be one where he gets out the car, takes off that helmet, and the smile is still on that face. And he'll say something funny in Australian. He might see Nico in the stands, and if he turns to Nico and says, "Look, it's Nico Hülkenberg," then we know that Danny Ric has had a good race, that he's happy, and obviously that'll set the precedent for the rest of the season. Good results. Hopefully podiums, fastest laps, and I just hope it gets there. And obviously the main thing for Danny Ric is I'm just worried that, the smile might turn to a frown one day, but of course, I hope it doesn't. And like we said for Verstappen, and like we said for Vettel and everyone else, this weekend is the main one. Hit the ground running, and if Danny Ric can get a good result in that Renault, then, it should go well for him. And I love watching him. I really do. Obviously, he's left Red Bull now, so he's not in my grasp anymore, but I do like watching his progress. He is a great guy, of course, very, very funny. Great, he gets away from that kind of Lewis Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel, all serious and, dead serious, and there's no joking around. He changes that to, all of his jokes and stuff. Would you have ever thought there was a driver to, put on a Nico Hülkenberg wig when they were taking the team photos last year in Abu Dhabi? He does that kind of thing. It's incredible. So yeah, anyway, that is Daniel Ricciardo, of course, man to watch, the main guy for me to watch this weekend. And of course, I've said my predictions as well. Jordan, it should be a feisty one. It feels like we've said a lot that, of course, drivers need to hit the ground running. Drivers need a good result, wherever that is. Of course, Williams probably towards the back of the grid, but a good result anyways. Maybe a few points, but mainly not be lapped, very early on. I think it took some 13 laps to lap them. It was pretty ridiculous. And I think someone like Robert Kubica was a minute down. Yeah, it's a minute down within the first 10 laps or something like that. Obviously, Williams, terrible last year. Of course, Renault, progress, there's teams like Racing Point, progress. AlphaTauri, of course, brand new team. What can they do? They were formerly Toro Rosso, of course, but we are saying that they are a brand new team, like we did with Racing Point, Belgium 2018. Kind of a brand new race for them. And of course, they are very much impressed. They're battling Lewis and Seb up the Kemmel Straight in that race. So yeah, AlphaTauri, what can they do? There's a lot of people impressing. A lot of people need to impress more than others. Of course, Ferrari, can Max win? Of course, as we've both said. Danny Ric, he definitely needs to impress, but we can definitely say that all drivers need to hit the ground running here in Australia. But we are definitely on for an entertaining race this weekend for the first round of the 2020 season, aren't we?
I think we are, to be honest. I know that like the track isn't exactly the most popular with fans, but I always look forward to the first race of the season, even if it was at France. I will look forward to it. If it was at Abu Dhabi, I will look forward to it. It's the first race of the season, and sometimes it might not be the most entertaining of races at times, but it's the first race back. We've waited for F1 for so long, so forget about all that. Just appreciate that it's back. Then you can complain after round 2 till the end of the season. But I'm so excited that it's back. I'm really happy that F1 is back in our lives. Of course, we've got that kind of mini break between the Vietnam Grand Prix and the Dutch Grand Prix. But hey, I'm pretty sure that'll just fly over, and then we'll get back to racing when it comes back to Europe. But yes, guys, as always, let us know your opinions about anything that we've said in the comment section below about obviously your wants to watch. And of course, leave your predictions in the comment section below, your top 3 and who you think will get fastest lap. Like I said, rules will be in the description below. And of course, this is the first video of our kind of revamped content over a race weekend. Tomorrow we've got the brand new kind of rebooted series of Fry the Grid coming tomorrow, so can't wait for that. Can't wait to kind of relaunch that on the channel as an independent video series. Saturday, as always, the F1 debate show goes around, and of course on Sunday, catch up with Lyle live. Yes, you heard me correct, guys. Live roughly about 5 minutes after the checker flag has fallen at Albert Park to recap, give his thoughts on the Australian Grand Prix. Go and join him there. Give him some love. He needs some love. It's an early start for him, guys. He needs some love. And of course, just have a mingle with him and stuff. And of course, that's what we'll be doing for the course of the rest of the season. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this preview. The first one back of 2020. Here we go to do it all again. And until next time, I'll see you later.
See you later, guys.